We're going to start with the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks, man. I mean, it's their first year without Pete Carroll. Their new coach, Mike McDonald, is coming in from the Baltimore Ravens. He had really good success there with Baltimore. He, allowed the fewest points last year as a defense, and that's going to help the Seahawks because they were 25th in points allowed last year on defense. So hopefully it's a good thing. Geno Smith is at the helm. How do you guys feel about the Seattle Seahawks this year?
Man, if you want to talk about a team that can easily go like 10-7 or 7-10, it's the Seahawks. And and you already hit it, right? There's no Pete Carroll, there's no Bobby Wagner, and there's no Jamal Adams. I know Jamal Adams hasn't had the greatest set of past probably 2 years, but he's still a guy on the field, and he's still a decent safety. He's not Antoine Winfield Jr., who's number one, but he's still a force, right? Geno Smith is he's not your elite guy, but he's not in the bottom 10. He's going to get you wins. He's going to put up a crazy game here and there, and he's really not going to turn the ball over all that much. But when you look at the Seahawks, they were 14th in pass, 28th in rushing, 15th in turnover differential, not bad, middle ground there, and 12th in sacks. So they were pretty mid overall if we're going to start talking like a bunch of Gen Z folks, but I'm just saying that they're decent.
Which is surprising because if you look at this offense, they actually have really good weapons, like all around.
Yeah.
You have Kenneth Walker, you have DK Metcalf, you have Tyler Lockett, Jason. What is it?
Jackson.
Smith.
It's Jackson Smith.
Jackson Smith.
I'm not even a butcher. You got Noah Fant, and they picked up another tight end in this draft. They also they have Witherspoon on the defensive end, Julian Love, which people kind of downplayed this past year. Unless you're a Seahawks fan, you understand how valuable Love is to your team. Dodson in the middle, Reed and Jones. Jones was picked up, I believe. No, I don't even want to try and see if I'm correct there. He's on the team. But the draft, they got Byron Murphy out of Texas for defensive tackle. Absolute steal. Their defensive four is going to be fantastic. They got Haynes for their guard to kind of beef up the O-line to help protect and actually push for this run game that they absolutely need. Pritchett to help out on the defensive side on cornerback, and Knight for linebacker for infinite amount of depth that these guys have and flexibility on the defensive side. What we've seen from Seattle since Pete Carroll got there was the flexibility of their defense, and they really haven't been in the bottom half for very long, or if ever, for the past 10 years or so. However, their pass offense and their running offense have to complement each other in order to win more games. You don't just start bombing it down the field like you're in college football and have a one-dimensional offense. You have to complement that. They had some injuries. I think Kenneth Walker had an injury or two this past season, and they picked up another guy. I can't remember who their backup was, but they picked someone up on the offseason, and their defense has to sustain, and especially in the NFC West, when you got a powerhouse like the 49ers and the Rams that can just come off and blow you up, right? And we want to talk about star-studded conference. You got a whole lot in here.
Yeah.
They do have a new head coach in Mike McDonald. He's very defensive-minded, but keep in mind he came from the pedigree of the University of Georgia, University of Michigan, and the Ravens defense under Harbaugh. So, yes, they were 9-8 last year and 2-4 in the division. I see them going 8-9 or 9-8 this year. I can't really tell how they're going to shape things up given all the changes that they've had in their organization. But I think if they were 8-9, 9-8, that's still kind of a decent season for them. And I know some Seahawks fans are going to blow us up on that comment, but they could easily have a season that could be 7-10 or 10-7, given kind of the schedule breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. They, I like the head coach hire. I actually like Pete Carroll. That old man was fiery, man. But I think it was time for them to move on. They, like you guys were saying, they cleaned house on that defensive side of the ball, and McDaniel coming over from the Ravens, I think, is going to bring them a little bit, definitely toughness. that Ravens defense was a tough defense, and they hit hard. So, I mean, he gets rid of, like you guys say, Quadric Diggs, Adams, Wagner. They're all out of there. But, and their defense is definitely going to be a little bit different. But Murphy was a great pick, man. That guy's I think he's going to be solid and love that defense. They lose Jordan Brooks to Miami also. But they fill in some guys because they're going to ask more of their linebackers than they did before, because Wagner and those guys were just heavy hitters. They stuffed the run. They weren't good in coverage. So they get Jerome Baker in from Miami. He's good coverage back. He's a good linebacker. I didn't want to see him go, but he wanted too much money. And then they get Terrell Dotson from Buffalo too to help out with that linebacking core. Yeah, they're yeah, I mean, it could be a whole new thing for them. I think the Seahawks fans should be happy. There's good groundwork there, and I don't think 2024 is their season. I think they're laying that groundwork, and then next year will be where you see them kind of maybe take off a little bit. The only problem they have really on the offensive side of the ball is, man, their O-line sucks. Like, it's not good. Last year was rated near the bottom, and this year going in, it's rated near the bottom as well. So, I mean, and you're going to you need to, if you're thinking you're going to take the 49ers out, man, that O-line better be stout. It's just not going to happen. Those guys are too strong up front. But they got good. I mean, you could see the way that he drafted. He gets Murphy. He gets the guard from Connecticut, Christian Haynes, to try to get big and agile in the middle. And then he gets a linebacker at UTEP, who I like, is Trice Knight. He's a guy. He's fast, rangy. So we'll see how it works out for them. I'm kind of with you guys. I think they're my heart says 7-10, but I could see 8-9. I just don't know if that offensive line is going to be good enough because they have great weapons. They got Metcalf, Lockett, Jackson Smith. Man, I just said it earlier. Joba, whatever.
Jigba.
All right, yeah. And they got Walker and Chaminade on there as their running back. So, and then like, the offense has got the pieces, man. They're just like a couple offensive linemen away from maybe adding 3 more wins to their schedule. I just don't think it's there. But the groundwork's there, and I think Seahawks fans should be real happy. I think 2025 is probably more we're going to see they'll have that ability to compete against 49ers.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I had them either going 8-9 or 9-8. I mean, just with the way that their schedule is, there's some teams that on this schedule that it's just going to be really tough. This division is not easy, but they are doing good things. They are laying down a good groundwork. And someone that we haven't mentioned that they got this offseason was Sam Howell. And I think Sam Howell could be someone who they can kind of go into the future with after Geno Smith, because Geno Smith is, I think, 33 now. And Sam Howell is young, and I like Sam Howell. I know that he had a big turnover rate, turnover problem last year. I think he threw like 21 interceptions, but he had almost 4,000 passing yards last year. And I think that he could be someone who, if he sits behind a starter like Geno Smith, who's someone who's just been around the game, it could help him out. It could help kind of slow the game down for him. And, who knows? I mean, like what Carlos was just saying, they could be able to, really kind of go into maybe next year or the year after with Sam and, kind of keep him in this same system. And they might found good success, but that offensive line definitely needs to be tightened up. I mean, that's you ain't going to win games if your quarterback's on the back. I mean, that's just plain and simple.
Their O-line's not like it's the Commanders bad. Like, Sam Howell was dealing with absolute trash with the Commanders this past year, and Geno didn't have the same O-line, I think, mesh and output that he had when he won Comeback Player of the Year. So he's still not a chump by any means, and I think they have a pretty decent set there with Geno Smith and Sam Howell.
Yeah, I think you're right. You could be right on that Sam Howell thing, because Geno's only signed through next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, unless he just breaks out in that 2025 year and has a good year this year, because he got hurt a little bit last year. Man, Howell's a tough one, though. He's I don't know how to take that guy, but he's a tough kid. I mean, it could be, sitting a year. I mean, I'm hoping he's just not another Jameis Winston, though.
Dude, I was actually just looking at his stats, and he threw for 21 touchdowns and 21 interceptions, and I immediately thought of Jameis, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
no. So,
but I mean, he was playing with a Commanders weren't that. Yeah, it was not a good team.
Yeah, no.